Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast, where we look at marketing principles, strategies, and tactics through the lens of space. Hi, I am your host, Izzy, and I am so excited to share this journey with you as we explore the different space industries. On this episode, we will look at the space transportation segment with Oscar Garcia, who is the founding partner, chairman, and CEO of InterFlight Global Corporation. So, lift off in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast. Information relating to our discussion today and links to the video version can be found in the episode show notes on spacemarketingpodcast.com. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. It will help more people reach beyond the atmosphere. Information in this episode is for entertainment and information only. Please consult a professional for your specific situation. Our next guest is Oscar Garcia, founding partner, chairman, and CEO of InterFlight Global Corporation. His company focuses on senior level consultancy, board advisory, and project design in the areas of strategy, enterprise development, finance, sales, and operations. We will discuss his strategies for developing space connectivity in the U.S. and the world within this decade and beyond. We will talk about 4 main types of flight technologies, which I'm very curious into how they're separated. You've got Transonic, you got Supersonic, and you got hypersonic and orbital. So in addition to this podcast, he will be presenting at the Spaceport-Kentucky Roundtable, Part 1 on October 26th and Part 2 on November 30th. In Part 1, he will be presenting point-to-point transportation as we discuss how to develop spaceports. In Part 2, we will be focusing on the horizontal launch spacecrafts itself, aircraft and aerocraft. So aerocraft, I made that one up, so I don't know if that's it. But, some of the aircraft is spacecraft and some of it is, some of them are both. So it's going to be interesting. So welcome to the podcast, Oscar. How are you?
Thank you, Izzy. I'm doing great, and I'm very, very glad we are talking on your podcast. This is a subject that is of utmost interest to me, to my company, and I think to a lot of people across the world that look back 60 years and they find they're flying across the world at the same speeds that their grandparents did, subsonically. Other than Concorde, from 1973 to 2003, 99.99% of the flying public is struggling with Mach 1 speeds. Still takes 22 hours to go across the world to the farthest point. So my interest and my company is to unleash and develop the technologies that will make the world a one-day affair. Basically, we can go anywhere and back in a business day. So we've been at that for about 25 years, and I think this decade, Izzy, like you very well say, we'll see finally some demonstrations that we can go anywhere on Earth within 2 or 3 hours.
That'll be amazing. We just don't have that kind of patience anymore. Everything is now, and so there's places I would like to see that they're so far away. And so I'm looking forward to it as well. And I hope it happens within the next few years. And but let's talk about you for a minute. How did you become interested in aerospace and space itself?
Well, I had I was born into an airline family. My dad was a commercial pilot when I was born. So ever since I can remember, I've been around airplanes and airlines and simulators and technology. So as soon as I became old enough, I became a pilot. I studied aerospace engineering and flew for the airlines for a number of years. I've owned an airline and also several aviation and aerospace businesses. And what really drives me and our business, we help companies, we help airports, spaceports to develop their business. And one area we are trying to focus in is the space connectivity amongst spaceports. I think we are looking at what aviation was in the 1930s, where the first airports emerged and the first airplanes connected them. I think we are seeing that moment this decade where spaceports now are starting to think about connecting with each other using vehicles, like you said, aircraft, spacecraft, and aerospacecraft in between that are capable of flying very high, very fast, and connecting spaceports and making the world a smaller place, better connected. I think we're going to see a game-changing way of life the day we can really cross the world very quickly.
And I would like to point out that it's not just for, people. This is, we're going to be able to get goods and things to disaster areas for disaster relief in record time. And not just, when you have a tsunami hit or you have a bad tornado, they need help now. And so these aircraft will be able to provide that. So it's not just for, luxury flight, though. It will be very nice to be able to visit Australia in a day. And but why don't we go ahead and float right into the fact that it's so important to be developing this technology now, these spaceports now. Where I come from, we have a general aviation airport that just opened up. Now, a general aviation airport is with small planes. It's the little Cessnas. And it took 20 years to build this airport. So, spaceports, we can't wait another 20 years to have spaceports built. They have to happen very soon. The aircraft are almost ready. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the industry as a whole and what point-to-point is?
Yes, exactly. Very, very good example. You mentioned aviation and general aviation and transporting cargo and making the world a better place. If we go back into aviation history, if you remember, the aviation system was formed by the airmail service. Across Europe, in the Americas, airmail was the first commodity transported by aircraft. And I think we are going to see something similar in point-to-point through space. If you look at the Department of Defense, point-to-point using rockets as rocket cargo programs, their first intent is operations other than war. Their first intent is humanitarian, disaster relief, just-in-time procurement of goods across the world. So I think we are going to see that coming up. Now, the speed about how do we develop spaceports quickly? The good news is that we've been doing it for 20 years. So those 20 years are over, Izzy. I think we have 14 licensed spaceports in America. And the last 20 years has been hard work, but they are ready to go. They're ready to ingest and adopt these vehicles. So that's why I think within this decade, finally, the infrastructure that has taken so long to build will be put to service. Let's talk about SpaceX and Starship. We are weeks away, I hope, from a demonstration where Starship is going to take off from southwestern Texas, go across the world in orbital space and land near Hawaii. That's across the world, the long way around, in 90 minutes. The day that happens, the day we demonstrate that capability, to me is going to be like the day when the Wright brothers did that first power flight in Kitty Hawk. The world will say it is possible to depart from somewhere on Earth and land on the opposite side, the long way around, in 90 minutes. I think the world is going to scramble and ask, let's have more frequent and more reliable let's make it happen. So I'm optimistic with a demonstration like Starship. The world will say, let's fly through space often.
Well, let's talk about some supersonic aircraft. And where are they in the process of coming online? Because I know that they've been working very hard on developing some aircraft that are quiet and don't have that supersonic boom. I think that's right. The main challenge.
We've done, my company's done a number of studies throughout the last 2 decades about supersonic aircraft. The good news is the technology we need is there. For the engines, for the aircraft, for the interiors, the guidance systems. The bad news was that supersonic flight over land was pretty much banned across most places of the world where the market makes sense for this type of aircraft. Fortunately, this decade, the NASA X-59 Quiet Supersonic Transport Program is going to alleviate that problem, show that certain aircraft will make a very low boom noise signature. And if everything is fine, by 2026, we should have enough data to lift the ban over land supersonic. And in my view, that will unleash the next generation of supersonic aircraft at affordable prices, quiet, friendly to the communities. And I'm optimistic that before the end of the decade, we'll have at least one commercial aircraft in service flying supersonic, like Concorde used to do for 3 decades.
Well, I believe United already has quite a few orders for some supersonics. And so the aircraft is, I think, beating the transportation network. So let's flip over into InterFlight Global Corporation and tell us a little bit about what it is that it does.
Thank you, Izzy. InterFlight Global is an air and space transportation consulting, advisory, and investments company. What we do is we basically are the translators of the world of air and space transportation technology and the capital markets that finance them. So we find our clients are either companies involved in air and space transportation or companies funding and promoting the capital formation for those companies. So what we do is we translate both languages, the language of finance and the language of technology and related to air and space transportation. Our typical clients are medium-sized companies and that are seeking to grow and are seeking either strategic planning or strategic investing. We are deploy teams to enable either the funding for the technology or the technology that the funding is looking for. And we have been successful in a number of aircraft and spacecraft programs, spaceport and airports, as well as the facilities that support them.
Yeah, because we still need a lot more airports to come online too.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. And we're not done.
Yes, we do. We do. But here is some good news, Izzy. There are 14 licensed spaceports in America, but there are over 10,000 licensed airports. What we are finding is that some of the vehicles coming into the supersonic realm, even hypersonic vehicles in the different design phases, and some of the horizontally launched spacecraft can operate from a hybrid airport spaceport model. Out of the 14, I believe 7 of our licensed spaceports are also licensed airports. So if you look at that base of thousands of airports, even if you take a tiny percentage, we already have a few hundred facilities that qualify for a hybrid airport spaceport applicability. So imagine the network that we can have all the way from Guam to Puerto Rico and all over Alaska, the continental US. We could start building the fabric of point-to-point aerospace transportation very, very quickly. So I'm optimistic, and like you, I know how much time these projects take, but we already have 30 years behind us of hard work. So I think this decade could see a lot of breakthroughs. Now, the surprising area we need to work hard is the mainstream public. Sometimes you talk about transportation through space, and everybody tells you, oh, like Apollo, we went to the moon. The space shuttle, those were great programs. Going to the moon was amazing. The space shuttle missions were amazing. We built a space station. However, we have to start sharing with the mainstream public that it's not all about government programs. We can have vehicles that are affordable, reliable, safe, and can transport any and everyone, just like an airplane does, to and from anywhere on Earth very, very quickly. Sometimes when we tell that to the public, they say, tell us more. Oh, we thought rockets were just these big things that were one-offs. We're saying, no, we are trying to build an aircraft-like spacecraft system where, again, we can use it frequently and as safely as an aircraft. And I think we are getting closer and closer.
Well, we care about safety, and we have a blueprint to follow. Aircraft itself have become very safe, and it's safer to be on an airplane than it is in your car. And, we can follow that same blueprint.
Yes, the standards are very high. You're right, Izzy, because flying is so safe that when we increase and we change the architecture of the system, the propellants, the power plants, the safety maturity is necessary. People are assuming flying is safe. And that's why you mentioned supersonics, you mentioned hypersonics. There is a logical roadmap. I've seen some of the supersonic programs coming online. Their safety standards, their safety allowances are very, very close, if not equal, or even better in some cases than aircraft. So I'm optimistic we can get there quickly. And that's why cargo transportation, like you said, disaster relief, emergency response, is going to give us the maturity, the reliability, the data that we need to later on carry passengers safely. And again, aviation started that way. The pioneers were transporting mail, cargo, relief supplies to faraway places. So I think we are going in that direction as well. I'm very excited about the rocket cargo program that both the Air Force and the Space Force are promoting. To be able to start doing those cargo flights quickly and often, and shortly after, we'll be able to take passengers.
Hold on to your boosters. We'll be right back with Oscar Garcia from InterFlight Global Corporation after a brief message from our sponsors. Please like and subscribe to the Space Marketing Podcast wherever you listen. Well, when we talk about aviation and the history of it, like we say, it was the mail that got it started, which was a government program. So government funneled the money into it first, but then commercial took hold. But it needed that government padding in order to make that little baby that sprout its wings, to show that. And then the commercial was able to take over, and look at what it does now. What if we hadn't had airports? How much have we been able to grow as a world, as a society, because we can just hop on a plane for $89 and go to Orlando for the weekend, and so
Absolutely.
It has changed quite a bit.
Yes, there's no doubt. If you look at the 20th century and the indicators of well-being for the human species, if you will, in terms of reduction of poverty, reduction of conflict, health, there is a direct correlation between air transportation starting in the 30s, and as you see air transportation evolves and matures, the leading indicators of the condition, the general condition of the human species goes up. And then there is an inflection point in the 60s when the jet aircraft come in and they make the world a 22 hour farthest point after the economic and well-being indicators go even up higher. So imagine the day that the world is an out and back affair in a day, so people can live in New Zealand and commute to California, or live in South Africa and commute to New York easily. I believe there's going to be another inflection point where the overall condition on Earth is better. I strongly believe, Izzy, that many presidents get to these agreements. Many captains of industry don't get to a deal because it takes too long to get there if they fly subsonically. But if we get those moments resolved by getting there quickly and back, I think the world will be a better place, a safer, more peaceful. Sometimes misunderstandings due to the tyranny of distance create some of the issues. So that's just my personal opinion. But if you look at those inflection points of aviation and well-being of the human group as a whole, we might have another jump here when we get this technology.
Well, and just as a social type of thing, when you're able to travel to another place as a tourist and you're able to enjoy and experience a culture of another person, then you have a better relationship with those people, and
I could not agree
you get
more.
along better. So
I could not agree more, and that's what drives me, like you, to promote and to work hard to enable this capability. It's not easy, and we have to message appropriately. I'll give you an example. For instance, we as a society want faster and faster digital world, right? And if your broadband went slower or your cell phone was slower, people would go on the streets and ask for, hey, what's going on, right? We want faster communications. However, when it comes to flying and moving across the world, the last 50 years have created a sense of, well, that's enough. We need to try to see if we can engage the population base, the mainstream, to say, look, we do everything faster digitally. Can we also move goods and people faster? The good news is that technologically we are very close to being there. But we might also need a societal ask, if you will, to do it. And not the complacency of, well, it is what it is. We can do it, but industry has been pulling for a long time. I'd like to find a way, maybe together with you and others, to get to a market public push where the public is asking for faster flying. Like they ask for 5G, now they want 6G. They want wider broadband on their computers, quicker processors. Can we get the public to say, hey, I'd like to be able to see my grandpa more often down in Europe? That's a real case for me. But I only go twice because it takes so long. But can we get everybody to ask, their governments, their favorite airlines, their favorite aircraft manufacturers, Boeing, Airbus, hey, please build us a faster plane. How do we do that? Well, maybe this podcast will trigger some imagination and some ideas to galvanize the public.
Well, and I think there's a lot of negative messages out there, and so that's part of what I do is I'm trying to put, I'm trying to open it up to that there is so much good, and the message needs to be shouted from the rooftops. And let's go into getting the message out there. So this is marketing, of course. So it is about getting that message out there. And one of the ways that we do that is events. So we have the Space for Kentucky events, which is designed to expose Kentucky to all of the awesome stuff that is happening in space, so that when you have somebody that's in a country town that, they don't know that their lives are surrounded by space, then, they can see that might be another career for them. And that when they wake up every day, it is awesome. And Aerospace does that, and space does that. And I did Civil Air Patrol for a little bit, and I put hundreds of kids on planes, and I got to watch them transform. So that's kind of what drives me in with the Spaceport Kentucky. Now you have an event coming up that is a 6 high-speed aerospace technology, or HSAT. Is that how you pronounce the acronym?
That's correct, HSAT.
And it's in November 16th and 17th. So you're doing a lot of promoting of this. So go ahead and take a moment and tell us about what's going on at that event.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Izzy, for mentioning that. This event, high-speed aerospace transportation, is one of a kind in the sense that we embrace every technology that means flying faster than we do today. So we embrace the supersonic ecosystem, the hypersonic ecosystem, and the space, orbital, and suborbital ecosystem. So we get together 125 people in all those speed realms, coming together to discuss how to enable faster than sound flight. So we are on our 6th edition, and we have some of the key players, manufacturers, spaceports, airports, and regulators coming in and trying to break the barriers, trying to break the ice of the high-speed transportation industry. So the technologies, the manufacturing, the research behind it gets a clear path to enable these vehicles. And one of the ice-breaking areas we do is marketing, promotion, messaging, engaging, galvanizing the public, the political forces, the investors, to show that if we allow these technologies to come in, the world will be better connected. The world will be smaller in the sense that people would understand each other better, whether tourism or politics. And so that is our event, and you are very, very welcome to join us. We do it in close collaboration with the Global Spaceport Alliance and other groups. And we expect this year to come up with a couple of breakthroughs, including the possibility of gathering all that we've learned in the last 20 years and putting together a book. Izzy, that's right on your wheelhouse. That shows the world the possibilities, no pun intended, of a high-speed flight and how to commercialize going somewhere on Earth to somewhere on Earth through space, especially through space, as a transportation method, as opposed to going to the moon for some expeditions or Mars or orbit. We are talking about being able to improve the condition of people and families through space, but not to go to another planet, just to go to our own planet, but quicker. So thank you for mentioning that. Izzy, I'll invite you right here on the podcast to join us, and I'd like to discuss the possibility of publishing something.
Well, that is one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast. Is the podcast is the interviews for the book. So
fantastic, excellent.
And one of the things I'd like to tell our audience right now is why the entrance into space makes it faster. So when you look at the International Space Station, it's going 17,500 miles per hour. A speeding bullet only goes like 8,000 miles per hour. So we're so much faster than even a bullet can travel when you're talking about the International Space Station going around in orbit. Well, these aircraft, they go up to that orbit and they kind of scoot along that, and they're able to get up speed at that altitude because there's no friction, and the rotation in the orbit, and that's why it's able to happen so fast. So one of the things that when we were talking at the the GSA Spaceport Summit last year is we were talking about the different types of flight, and I was ignorant in that there are supersonic and hypersonic and suborbital are not the same things. So why don't you break those apart a little bit and tell us what the differences are?
Yes, exactly. Very good point. There is a very big difference between flying in the atmosphere, where the air provides friction and drag, and flying in vacuum, where there is no resistance or friction. So the supersonic and hypersonic flight, supersonic flight, to put it in simple terms, is about 2 or 3 times as fast as we fly now. And that happens in the air, and the friction of the air is very important because the temperatures are very high. Concorde, when it flew 2 times the speed of sound, it stretched a couple of meters, the whole airplane, and then compressed back because of the temperature expansion. So the friction of the atmosphere acts as a brake. But in simple terms, supersonic will take you there twice as fast as today. Then you move on to hypersonics that move at about 3 to 5 times as fast as we fly today. But because they fly higher, the atmosphere is thinner and there is less of that friction and resistance. However, the temperatures achieved are also very high. So temperature and materials are a big issue. But again, we have the technology for it. We've been at it for decades. So the good news, technology is there. That's not a problem. Now, when you exit the atmosphere, now you can start going 10 times, 15 times, or 20 times as fast as you go today, because in vacuum there is no resistance. The challenge, however, is the return to the atmosphere. When a vehicle that is going 20 times the speed of sound comes back from vacuum into the atmosphere, that friction, that drag from the air particles, the temperatures are extremely high, and that is a technological challenge to be able to do that again and again and again on a short period of time, which is how rockets of this type would be able to be commercially viable. They have to do it again, like an airplane, fly again and again. So, but in simple terms, supersonic is twice as fast, hypersonic is, say, 5 times as fast, and anything over 10 times as fast as we fly today is the orbital and suborbital realm, up to 20 times faster. And at some point, at 20 times faster, you run out of Earth. Basically, by the time you get to that speed, it's time to come down. But as you can see, Elon Musk is very clear about it. When we conquer that orbital 20 times, anywhere on Earth will be less than an hour. So imagine the possibilities that open up when you can go to the other side of the world, have a lunch or a business meaningful meeting, and come back in a business day or in a 24-hour period. The consequences are unpredictable, but I think most of them will be positive. So I think I'm very excited that within our lifetimes, Izzy, we will see demonstrations of what we are talking about. And back to the beginning of the podcast, when SpaceX flies Starship from Texas to Hawaii, the long way around going east, in 90 minutes, the whole of the people of the world will say, we want that. We want to be able to experience that. So, and we are weeks away from that. They tried once, it didn't work, but they're going to try again and again.
Yeah, it kind of did work what they were trying to test, but let's test it better this time.
That's right. I went to Kitty Hawk Memorial this summer with my family, and I recommend everybody should go there at least once, because the National Park Service has done a superb job of detailing how that first power flight was achieved. I forgot the number of failures and crashes they had before that flight. So we also have to remember that all things that are a breakthrough, we have to be patient, we have to be resilient and strong, and understand that it's not going to be maybe the first few attempts, but we will get there. And I'm very, very excited about that demonstration from Starship. I'm very excited about the supersonic aircraft coming into service. There's a company, Boom Supersonic, is preparing a real nice aircraft that I believe this decade is going to show that quiet supersonic flight is possible. And there are a number of hypersonic projects. Some of them are less public than others. I'm optimistic we'll see something very interesting on supersonic, on hypersonic, and on orbital this decade.
Okay, well, let's talk about, normally I ask, where do you see the space industry in the next 10 to 20 years? So, say that Starship goes off and is a perfect landing in Hawaii. So what do you see happening after that? What's the timeline look like for the next 20 years in supersonic, hypersonic, and suborbital?
Yes, good point. When there is a demonstration like that, things accelerate. And that's the good news, even if it takes 2 or 3 attempts to do it. So my crystal ball tells me by the end of the decade, we are going to see a viable commercial supersonic vehicle in service, entering service, whether it's for private use or government use or the airlines. Early next decade, we are going to see hypersonic vehicle entering service, perhaps not for the commercial world, more for the military, government, cargo, relief services by mid-2030s. And on the orbital technology, I predict by mid-2030s, we're going to see regular cargo, or at least a movement of goods through rockets across the world. The first users will be the DoD in the case of the rocket cargo program for Air Force and Space Force. And but come 2040, I think we are going to be seeing people move across the world, like Elon's vision is on rockets. If we go even a decade farther, by 2050, I think the world will take for granted that it's possible to go anywhere and back in a business day. So no later than 2050, I think we will see all the speed realms enabled. So it's exciting. It's still 20 years, but it goes in a hurry.
Oh, it's so fast. It's so fast. And I believe that this and several other industries are right on the tipping point of change. And then it's all going to happen at the same moment. And, 20 years from now, we will be shocked and amazed at what our world looks like. I mean, look at right now. We're talking, and we're not even in the same state. And this was not something you could do a very short time ago. And
Yes.
now we're doing it, and it's a matter of just, normalcy that we can talk to everyone.
Exactly. And to that point, Izzy, I'd like to share with your audience a thought that as we do virtual reality, if you will, digital reality, more and more and more, there's been a disconnect. The real movement of goods and people has stayed stagnant for 50 years, but we do everything digitally faster, from digital design to video communications to we can do telemedicine. You can operate on somebody across the world. But the real movement of people and goods is out of sync with that speed. So my view is that disconnect, that when we can accelerate also the speed at which we move people and goods across the world, a lot of friction points, misunderstandings, lack of relatedness, a handshake, a hug. When we equalize the speed of digital with the speed of real, if you will, I think we are going to be a happier group of people. I've seen situations where misunderstandings due to distance or due to the digital two-dimensional world, if you will, have created things that high-speed transportation could have resolved. And if you look at high-speed trains in Europe, for instance, countries that have high-speed trains where people can go to places and back the same day, where before it took them a couple of days, economies are thriving, people are more related, families are more connected. I think high-speed aerospace transportation will have a similar effect. So this is worth just looking at it, see if it happens. That's what drives me, drives the people I work with in our company. It's beyond business or financial gain. It's about time we improve the human condition.
Absolutely. And you have a quote that you say, and that's fly fast, fly safe.
Yes, I do, because I come from the airline world. I was an airline captain for many years, and I flew across the world. I flew with many people under my supervision, and I learned very quickly how important safety is, and every human life is so precious that the responsibility of transporting people where they want to go safely is number one. So as I transition to the space industry, allowing for all the innovation and research and trial and error we need to have, and we do, by the time we offer those technologies to the flying public, we have to be respectful of the safety standards that we are all used to on subsonic aircraft. So that's a little bit of my airline heritage, but we still need to try, and that's why cargo, movement of even for special military missions, the risk tolerance is higher, and that will allow us to mature the system, just like aviation started. Aviation matured to the point of traveling passengers, of flying passengers, thanks to the special missions, cargo, mail, relief, and sadly, but really also military operations allowed in the 20s to test engines and airframes. But I prefer that the maturity comes by sending relief goods and peaceful operations rather than military. But safety is should be always number one.
And sometimes military is necessary. You know, during the World War II, the plane really came into being and created a network of airports and things. But if we hadn't had that, you know, our world may look very different than it does today.
Yes, that's right. That's a reality, and sometimes you have to look at it that way. And the legacy, the airport legacy we have to take us where we are today, and back to the earlier conversation, the network of airports, not only in America but across the world, when enabled for high-speed vehicles, whether it's supersonic aircraft or hypersonic, hybrid aircraft, spacecraft, or spacecraft. Let's not underestimate what exists and the infrastructure that can be adapted to the new modality. So we don't have to build a network of spaceports from scratch. We can also adapt or even modify some of what already exists. And I'm very, very confident that that's going to be a solution that is going to be a less infrastructure burden on the industry.
And that's a great place to end. So if you have an airport and you want to make it to where it can do supersonic, contact Oscar.
Thank you very much, Izzy. I love your enthusiasm, and that the way you present the subject is what the mainstream public wants to hear, that they can fly reliably, safely, affordably, and also with respect to the environment, and with the same standards, and evolving those standards as much as subsonic aviation does. And if we can get the public to ask for, fly me faster, they go to their favorite airline and they say, please, I love flying with you, but if you flew me faster instead of once in a lifetime to Paris, I'll go every year. The airlines will have more revenue, more passengers, so it will be a win-win. And also, like you said, people knowing each other from far places of the world will be a more harmonious and I believe a better place. So I'm on board.
Yes. A special thanks to Oscar Garcia from InterFlight Global Corporation for sharing his journey to space. Be sure to check out his links and his event listed in today's show notes. Please like and subscribe to the Space Marketing Podcast to help get the word out about this incredible industry of space. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for the stars.